Kenny MacAskill.
Deputy Speaker, all speeches, especially what's a programme for government, take place in a context and a backdrop. Not just the rising cost of living, but from Scotland it's the utter perversity that we have a land that is energy rich, and yet we have so many Scots who are fuel poor. Oil and gas that in 2014 we were told was literally valueless and would soon be gone is now worth a fortune, and the UK sees it as being exploited for decades to come. But it extends beyond that, because we have renewables, not simply having been blessed with hydro and indeed onshore wind. We now have offshore wind coming, the Saudi Arabia wind with 25% of Europe's resource in Scotland. But where's the benefits to our community? Where is the oil fund that Norway has that we can only look at and lament? Where is the benefit from offshore wind when the jobs are going abroad and the revenue is going south? There is a perversity in my constituency of people who can see the energy wealth and yet are unable to heat their own home. It's not the fault or all the fault of Ukraine. Of course it's a factor, but there are many more, including the profits being made, which is why I support a windfall tax, because there's certainly been a windfall many of the corporate executives. But we have the absurdity and the indignity of a third of Scots now facing fuel poverty and rising, over half in the islands and indeed in areas of deprivation. And let's be clear, we're not talking about the invidious choice of heating or eating, or that appalling expression and euphemism of a self-disconnection. It's not self-disconnection. It's disconnection forced by political decision-making and political choice. They have no alternative. It is not an accident. It is a political decision. And let's also remember, it's not the choice between heating or eating. It goes beyond that. It's the person who wants to charge up their phone because you need to power your phone. You need a phone to live these days because you want to be contactable for employment. It's the mother who wants to wash their clothes so their kids can go smart to school even if they've had to be bought in a charity shop. It's the child who's been given an iPad because he comes from a deprived part and they want to try and level up and his mum can't put the power on. It's the person on dialysis who's sitting having to keep themselves alive and has to make that choice of keeping their power on and what do they not spend upon. So that's the situation. Yes, there's things that have to be done that cost money, but there are things that are remarkably cheap. What about unregulated fuel? Because we've seen the cost rise of electricity and gas. But what about LPG and especially heating oil and biomass? 7% of Scots are on unregulated fuel. Why can that not be regulated and at least capped when a cap is imposed? Because everybody knows the costs of heating oil have gone up far more than the cost of electricity and gas, and they've been left behind. And what about prepaid meters? Because we have the iniquity in our country that those who have the least pay the most. Those who are dependent upon prepaid meters are not simply those who are forced there by choice. Many of them have no alternative because their private landlord insists upon it. And yet they pay a higher tariff, they pay higher standing charges, and there is no reason for that. It's not a technical decision forced by the complexity of metering. It comes about because the government will not direct Ofgem to enforce it. The companies could do it, and equally, as my friend, the Honourable Member for Ceredigion said, there's a time now for a social tariff and indeed a disability tariff. Other countries do it. Belgium does it. Portugal and Spain have actions, so those who have least are protected. That does mean that those who have more, such as myself and other members here, might have to pay a slightly higher rate, but indeed it can be done, as well as the money coming in from the windfall tax. This isn't a situation we find by accident, it's a political decision and it has to change.
Thank you.